Hey, this is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you for Reason to Resist from West Asia on March 19th, 2026. As I reported yesterday, I'm traveling to Iran this week and expect to spend about a week there reporting on conditions on the ground. I will hopefully be able to enter the country later this evening. In the interim, I wanted to report to you on some dramatic developments that have occurred in the criminal war of aggression on Iran within the past 24 hours. Israel, it seems, is hell-bent on destroying the global economy. Why do I say that? Well, Iran has repeatedly warned that it would retaliate in kind to any attacks on its energy infrastructure. It's been quite adamant about that. And notwithstanding these clear, unambiguous, and repeated warnings, yesterday the genocidal Israeli entity struck a key Iranian energy facility. And the Islamic Republic, as anyone could have foreseen, responded immediately and massively. Now, before I get into what exactly has transpired, I just want to remind you to like and share this video if you find it to be informative. And if you're not already a subscriber to Reason to Resist, please become one and help us to expand the reach of our unapologetic resistance journalism. So with that, let's get into it. The Iranian energy facility struck by Israel yesterday is the gas production facility at the South Pars gas field. And here is a video of what transpired after the attack. This you can see is a report by Middle East Eye. And whatever the full scope of this damage may have been, it does appear to be quite significant, judging from the number and size of the fires raging there. Now, South Pars is the world's largest natural gas field. This facility is processing gas from that field, and it is shared between Iran and Qatar in the Persian Gulf. Daily gas production at the South Pars field reached a record 730 million cubic meters in 2025, according to the Iranian oil ministry. And the field is the source as well of most of Qatar's liquefied natural gas exports. It is also the biggest source of electricity for Iran. And you can see the field, the gas field here in the Persian Gulf. The South Pars production facility is in the area of Asuliya, which you can see in the middle, just in the upper half of the map, on the coast of Iran, and colored in pink off the shore of Qatar is the southwestern limit of the South Pars gas field. Predictably, Iran immediately responded to Israel's provocation by striking major energy facilities in Gulf autocracies that are allied with Washington. First, Iran struck the Ras Laffan LNG hub. This is the world's largest natural gas export facility, and it is situated in Qatar. Here is some video of that aftermath.
Oh, shit. Oh, Ray. Oh, my God. We are back here. Oh, oh, shit. Allah.
Ras Laffan is Qatar's main LNG production center and hosts key gas processing, refining, and power facilities. Ras Laffan's port spans around 4,500 hectares, making it the largest artificial harbor in the world and home to the world's biggest LNG export terminal. It is a critical hub for global energy supply, not just for the Qatari economy. The cost of this massive project totals in the range of $29 billion and took well over a decade to develop. Satellite images from Mizar Vision show multiple impact sites at Ras Laffan. And here, I'll put that up on the screen so you can see for yourself just how extensive the damage has been. So you can see it's all over the facility. There are large fires apparently raging The smoke plumes are visible from the sky via satellite. Now, next, Iran retaliated by striking the Habshan gas facility and the Bab field in the United Arab Emirates. Habshan is a key processing hub that handles much of Abu Dhabi's offshore gas output. The nearby Bab oil fields are one of the UAE's largest production areas. And here's some video or some information relating to those strikes. The UAE, I haven't been able to find video. The UAE has been quite repressive in terms of preventing further video and photographs of the damage being done to this Mossad operation masquerading as a country by the Iranian missile and drone strikes. But the reports suggest that the UAE authorities rushed to shut down the Habshan gas facilities and the Bab field as what they refer to as falling debris rained down on the infrastructure. This is a common refrain we hear from the US, Israel, and Washington's vassals in the region when there is damage done to a significant asset, infrastructural or otherwise, that they cannot deny because there are simply too many witnesses and possibly also physical evidence of the damage. They will tend to say that the struck site was hit by debris because they don't want to undermine confidence in the efficacy of their air defense systems. Whether, in fact, this is a true statement that this was caused by debris or not, I don't know, but it's hard to imagine that some debris would force them to shut down the gas facilities in their entirety. The UAE called this a dangerous escalation threatening global energy security, but as far as I can see, it's not retaliated militarily in any way, at least not at this time. Now, Iran's retaliatory strikes did not stop there. Ballistic missiles also targeted Saudi facilities supplying the fuel market of Riyadh, the Saudi capital, and these facilities have a capacity reportedly, according to the Wall Street Journal, of 130,000 barrels per day. And here's some video, quite impressive video, I must say, of those strikes. Now, like the collaborators who run the United Arab Emirates, the Saudi autocracy claimed that its air defenses also intercepted the incoming missiles and that quote-unquote debris caused the damage. But as I think you can see quite clearly in this video, these were direct impacts, at least one major impact of an incoming ballistic missile. And this was not caused exclusively or even partly, as far as we know, by what the Saudi autocracy refers to as debris. In addition, unconfirmed reports online indicate fires have broken out at Yanbu, a key Red Sea oil refining and export hub that Saudi Arabia has been ramping up to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. This hub is fed by a pipeline that crosses Saudi Arabia, and there was some hope that the use of that facility and that pipeline could mitigate the loss of the oil through the Strait of Hormuz, some 20 million barrels a day. But there's a real question about whether that's going to happen, whether there'll be any mitigation, not only as a result of these unconfirmed reports, but because Ansar Allah, a key ally of Iran in Yemen, clearly has the capacity through its own missile and drone arsenals to strike the Yanbu facility. Now, Iran did not limit its retaliatory strikes to energy facilities of the Gulf autocracies. Of course, it also retaliated against the genocidal Israeli entity itself. Here you can see yet another video of an incoming Khorramshahr 4 ballistic missile from Iran releasing its dozens of submunitions.
يا الشيران انت
זה מסוכן.
לאיפה זה נופל?
يا الشيران.
And as you see in that brief clip, there doesn't appear to be any attempt by the air defense forces of Israel to intercept these incoming submunitions with Patriots or whatever else happens to be handy. And as I argued yesterday, it is very likely at this stage that Israel is conserving its dwindling stocks of interceptor missiles to try to bring down the larger single warhead missiles that pack a very considerable punch because of the size of their warheads. Now, as Israeli media, I'm sorry, before I go on to some media reports in Israel, I also want to show you this. This was a failed interception of an incoming Iranian ballistic missile last night. That's an interceptor going up. Here goes that's the incoming missile, apparently at much higher speed. And just watch how it appears that the interceptor missile abruptly changes course as the ballistic missile nears its target. And still, despite that very abrupt change towards the incoming ballistic missile, the interceptor completely missed it. Let's watch this again. There's the change in course, and a total miss. Now, according to the Israeli media, they've openly acknowledged this. Iran struck Ben Gurion airport last night, and here's video footage of the aftermath of that strike.
Inside now!
Now you can see when the explosions occur, the flash of lights expose numerous commercial airliners. It's hard to say at what distance those commercial airliners are from the blast site, but judging by the size of them in this video, they seem to be fairly close. Let's watch it again.
We have to go. Okay. Inside now! Coming!
Now, despite the video footage that we just saw, which is widely circulating on social media, the Hebrew media report that the damage was limited to 3 private jets parked on the airport tarmac. They were damaged by debris following the interception of the missile. They said it was intercepted. And they also report that only one of them was damaged in a major way. The two of the private jets apparently sustained moderate damage. That, at any event, is the narrative we're being fed. So, in other words, they claim that there was no major damage to this key airport facility in the genocidal colony. Despite this claim, the Netanyahu regime responded to the strikes on Ben Gurion, or the strike. It's unclear whether there was more than one projectile or only one. It responded to this by reducing the number of colonists who can flee the genocidal colony by airplane departing from Ben Gurion. And here is a report published this morning by the Times of Israel. You can see the headline: number of passengers per flight reduced after damage at Ben Gurion airport from Iranian attack. So when they say reduced, they're saying reduced from the already restricted level that was in place previously. The new reduction or requirements are that departing flights on narrow body aircraft are limited to carrying 120 passengers per flight. In addition, the number of persons per flight permitted to board large wide body aircraft will be limited to 130 people, down from the 260 to 270 that were recently approved to board long-haul flights from Ben Gurion to the U.S. So both of these numbers, whether you're talking about 270 or 130, are well below the maximum capacity of the larger wide-body aircraft. But now, they're reducing it even further, as I said, to 130 people. Apparently, these are going to come into effect, these new requirements, by Saturday night. Now, something about all of this just seems odd to me. If, in fact, the damage from this strike was as limited as it was and was confined to 3 private jets, it's hard to see the rationale underlying a decision to sharply reduce the number of people who can go out on the wide-body jets. I mean, if it's that dangerous, why are they allowing any of them to leave the colony? Another possibility, frankly, one that I regard as more plausible, is that this incident, if in fact it did cause limited damage, and I'm in no position to say how extensive the damage was or was not, is being used as a pretext by the Netanyahu regime to restrict the exodus of fearful colonists from the genocidal colony. Now, as was predictable, global oil markets have gone completely berserk as a result of these criminally insane events. Let's take a look at a very informative post that was put out today on social media by an analyst named Shihun Park. He claims, by the way, to have the world's highest IQ at 312. Whatever Mr. Park's actual IQ may be, he makes some important and compelling points in this post. He notes, first of all, that the price of Dubai crude has risen to $155 a barrel. Same for Oman crude. Brent crude, by contrast, produced in the West, is at $103 a barrel, but that's still much higher than it was before this war of aggression began. And U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, is a little bit below Brent at $96 a barrel. Again, that's a big increase since this war began. And there is now a remarkable gap between Asia and U.S. oil, he calls it, of in the range of $50 per barrel. And that, he says, I think with considerable justification, suggests that the market is broken. He also points out that the International Energy Agency just released the largest amount of its reserves in history, 400 million barrels, to try to mitigate the crisis, and that the U.S. Is dumping $172 million barrels of oil from its strategic petroleum reserve into the market, putting the reserves now at their lowest since the 1980s. The Strait of Hormuz still closed. 20% of the world's oil supplies have been blocked as a result of the closure. And he goes on to note, and this is, I think, of particular concern, that China and India, the 2 biggest oil importers are in Asia, because they're paying 50% more than the U.S. For the same barrel and paying what is a record price. These prices, if they persist in Asia, will have massive knock-on effects. $150 per barrel is going to do severe damage to manufacturing in major manufacturing countries in Asia. This will slow down and possibly break numerous supply chains. And remember how the breakdown of global supply chains battered the global economy during the pandemic not so long ago. Mr. Park also points out that the remaining strategic oil reserves will drain fast. The amount that's been released and that remains in these reserves would constitute weeks of consumption, not months, so that if this war continues and the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz goes on for months, these reserves, what remains of them, are going to be entirely depleted potentially. And so there's no safety net in the global oil reserves. Eventually, gas prices will explode in the United States at $96 per barrel. West Texas Intermediate translates into $4.50 to $5 per gallon. And if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed another month and West Texas Intermediate goes up to $120 a barrel, which is entirely conceivable, then the price of gas will be $6 per gallon or higher. And this will, of course, have dramatically negative impacts on many American consumers, causing a huge reduction in their spending and therefore a massive increase in recession risk and in the the likely severity of any recession. Inflation, Mr. Park points out, will come back with a vengeance because oil, of course, in our oil-hungry global economy, feeds into everything: transport, food, manufacturing, plastics, you name it. In the worst case, he says, if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed for months, oil hits $200 a barrel in Asia. The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve runs completely dry. America loses its buffer, and we end up with a global recession or even a global depression resulting from this energy shock. Now, even if Israel and Iran managed to come to some kind of an accommodation, and the United States, of course, that's the main actor here. It's not Israel, the pipsqueak. It's the United States. And if they made the concessions, which Iran is quite reasonably demanding, including reparations and the withdrawal of these imperialistic and aggressive military forces of the United States from the region and security guarantees, even if they did that tomorrow, the damage is going to persist for months, if not years. The damage resulting from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, and in particular, the damage, the destruction on oil infrastructure in West Asia. And the reason for this is quite simply that major oil and gas infrastructure that has been severely damaged or destroyed will take years to repair or replace. And it will take months, at least, for oil and gas facilities that have been shut down as a precautionary measure to return to normal pre-war operations. Now, of course, people are going to want to blame someone for this shitstorm. And Trump certainly don't want to be the guy who's going to get the blame. And not surprisingly, he just issued another absurd post on Truth Social in which he claimed not to have known about the South Pars strike in advance. And here it is, folks, the latest inanity coming out of Donald Trump. He says, Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, as if Israel is the party that has cause to be angry, not the victims right across the region of this sadistic entity. It has violently lashed out, says the Donald, at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. Well, it didn't look like it was that small a section based on the video I showed you at the outset. The U.S. knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this. So he's almost, partly apologizing for Iran's strikes on Qatar. Interesting. And he says Iran did not know of any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack. In other words, I guess who's behind it. And he's claiming that it was just Israel acting alone and without prior warning to the United States. And then he says that Iran nonetheless unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field. I just stopped there. He doesn't say extremely important oil infrastructure assets in Iran. He limits the guarantee only to the South Pars field, but there are numerous other infrastructure, oil and gas producing infrastructure facilities in Iran that are extremely important to the government of Iran, and if attacked, would provoke similar retaliatory strikes, if not bigger ones. So this doesn't seem to be much of an assurance at all. Even if you can take it at face value, it's only confined to the South Pars field. And he says that this prohibition on further attacks on South Pars will remain in place unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, with or without the help or consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. What we should be worried about is not whether Iran will have seen or witnessed such power before, but what the impact of that destruction would be on the global economy. And based on the facts I provided to you, we can anticipate that it would be massively negative. Nonetheless, Donald Trump is threatening to do it. Then he says, I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction. Sure, Donald, we know how averse you are to massive violence and destruction, you genocidal mass murderer, because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran. So his primary concern, of course, is Iran's future. But if Qatar's LNG is again attacked, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and blah, blah, blah. So what happened once this statement was issued? Well, Israel, which is undoubtedly worried itself about getting all the blame for this criminal attack on the South Pars gas facility, contradicted Trump through unnamed officials. And up here, I put on the screen a post by Barak Ravid, who is a quote-unquote journalist at Axios. He's an Israeli, and he says, this was posted this morning, contrary to Trump's statement, senior Israeli and U.S. officials said that the United States had, so it's not just Israeli officials who are telling Ravid this, it is also U.S. officials, according to him. He says the United States had prior knowledge of the Israeli strike and even approved it in an attempt to pressure Iran. Wow. After the Iranians retaliated against Qatar's gas fields, Trump is now changing course, as if it was not foreseeable that the Islamic Republic would respond in this way. So how did Israeli warplanes strike a target so far from Israel without the assistance of the United States military? For example, targeting data and in particular refueling, mid-air refueling for the Israeli warplanes that would have to be refueled in order to travel all the way to the Iranian coast on the Persian Gulf. Now, as this blame game unfolded, it came to my attention that Joe Kent, who just resigned as Trump's counterterrorism czar, had done an interview with Tucker Carlson in the past 24 hours. Here is some of what Joe Kent had to say, because it is most pertinent to the events that occurred within the past 24 hours.
Good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. How did you reach that conclusion?
I think this is key. I mean, this would be more challenging to explain had the Secretary of State, the President, and the Speaker of the House not come out and said that we conducted this attack at this time because the Israelis were about to do so. So that takes away the argument that there was an imminent threat, as in Iran was planning to attack us immediately. That just simply did not exist.
May I ask you to pause? Sure. And so I've heard people say that, and this just happened, but history has a way of getting rewritten in real time. And then you look back 10 or 15, 20, 25 years later, and no one seems to understand the things that you saw because they've been eliminated. Yeah. So I think it's important to stop and say, here's what we actually know. So I'd like now, if we could, just to play one of the statements that you alluded to, and that's from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. And this was shortly after this war commenced. And he was explaining, as is his habit, in a thoughtful, precise way, why. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Okay, so that is his almost contemporaneous explanation, and it's not offhand. He reasons it out. He explains there's a logic chain there, and he says, we knew not that Iran was going to attack. He did not say that.
Right.
He said we knew that Israel was going to attack Iran, and in retaliation for those attacks by Israel against Iran, Iran might attack American forces. So the imminent threat that the Secretary of State is describing is not from Iran, it's from Israel.
Exactly. And I think this speaks to the broader issue. Who is in charge of our policy in the Middle East? Who is in charge of when we decide to go to war or not? In this case, with what the Secretary described, and later on the President, later on the Speaker of the House, and the way the events played out, the Israelis drove the decision to take this action, which we knew would set off a series of events.
You know, folks, when the global economy is going to hell and billions of people around the world are looking for somebody to blame, the last thing you as a leader of Israel would want is the just resigned counterterrorism czar of the Trump regime to be saying that Israel dragged us into this war when we knew what would happen and that Iran was not an imminent threat to the United States. So basically what we are witnessing is the genocidal Netanyahu regime committing political suicide before our very eyes. Now, to try to salvage the situation, what is the Epstein regime doing? Well, of course, it is targeting its critics. So a report has emerged from Fox News that Mr. Kent, whom you just heard speaking and telling the truth, is under FBI investigation. According to Fox, former head of National Counterterrorism Center is under investigation for alleged leaks just days after resigning in protest of the U.S. war in Iran. Sure, that's purely a coincidence that he's under investigation just days after that resignation, right? Now, of course, what this all means is that Israel understands perfectly well, I think, that it is exposed politically to an extraordinary degree. And that is precisely why, yet again, it is resorting to the persecution of its critics with apparently the enthusiastic support of the Trump regime. But quite apart from the political backlash, there is a much more direct and physical way for Israel to be consumed by the consequences of its criminal attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure. And here I'm referring to the possibility or the vulnerability of Israel's own energy infrastructure. And let me just put up on the screen here a very important article that just appeared in the Middle East Forum. You can see the title there, Israel's Offshore Gas and the New Maritime Security Frontier. The subtitle, Two Large Gas Fields Off the Northern Coast Form a Critical Pillar of Israel's Energy Security and Economic Stability. This was published just about 10 days ago on March 9th. Now, as reported by the Middle East Forum 10 days ago, Israel's offshore natural gas platforms are now among the most exposed energy assets in the Eastern Mediterranean. As tensions rise, Israel's offshore gas fields now sit at the front line of a maritime security and geopolitical competition. The Tamar and Leviathan gas fields lie roughly 50 to 80 miles off Israel's northern coast in the Levant Basin. They are therefore well within range of Iran's ballistic missiles and drones. They are even easier to strike by Hezbollah, which is in the south of Lebanon. By the way, if you doubt Hezbollah's ability to strike at production platforms in these gas fields, have a look at this video of Hezbollah missiles soaring into Israeli airspace unmolested last night. Now, as explained by Middle East Forum in this article, the Tamar gas field was discovered in 2009 and has reserves estimated about 283 billion cubic meters. And it began production in 2013 and now supplies roughly half of Israel's domestic natural gas consumption. The larger Leviathan field, discovered in 2010, holds approximately 623 billion cubic meters of recoverable gas and entered production in 2019. And in January 2026, just a few months ago, Chevron approved a new investment phase designed to increase Leviathan's production capacity to roughly 21 billion cubic meters annually by the end of the decade. And together with smaller deposits such as Karish and Tanin, Israel's offshore reserves total about 413 billion cubic meters. I mean, it's really not Israel's, it belongs to the Palestinians. They just damn well stole it from them. But nonetheless, the point remains, Israel is existentially dependent upon these gas-producing assets. Natural gas now generates roughly 70% of Israel's electricity and sharply reducing its dependence on imported coal and oil. And these fields, therefore, form a critical pillar of Israel's energy security and economic stability. Now, I ask, why would Iran leave these assets unscathed if the sadistic genocidal entity is hell-bent on crippling Iran's oil and gas production? I myself would be very surprised if Iran and its allies do not strike at Israel's offshore gas production facilities in the very near future. And for all we know, they have already done so or attempt to do so, and the Israelis are simply concealing that fact. Now, before I sign off today, I wanted to share with you briefly some other notable developments. First, the Iraqi resistance has now expanded its military targets to include U.S. bases in Jordan. And here's a video they just put out in that regard. I'm just going to remove the music because sometimes the YouTube censors find that it has copyright protection. So you can see what they are assembling there or preparing for launch are suicide drones. So I think that we can safely deduce from all of the evidence that there really is no military base or intelligence gathering facility of any significance in the region of West Asia that is immune to attack from the Islamic Republic of Iran or its allies in the region, most notably Hezbollah, the Iraqi resistance forces, and Ansar Allah. Now, another piece of information I wanted to share with you before signing off is that after Trump claimed that Iran did not have fast attack boats in the Persian Gulf and that the images of those boats were AI generated, Iran now appears to be using those attack boats. You can see a report here from resistance channels. The latest tanker strike appears to have been the work of Iran's fast boats. There's some evidence that these are back. Now, this is not definitive, but there were some reports circulating on social media that the latest tanker attack was carried out by these boats. Myself, I have no doubt that Iran possesses these things. It has clearly the technological capability and the industrial capacity to make them in significant numbers, and all the incentive in the world to use them if they deem it necessary to protect themselves from U.S. and Israeli aggression. And the last thing I want to share with you is a report from ABC News about attacks on U.S. Radar systems in West Asia. This is based on satellite imagery inspected and videos analyzed by ABC News, which says that they indicate that Iran and its proxies have struck. By the way, I don't think I'd consider them to be proxies. They're allies. They obviously care about what Iran thinks. They're assisted by Iran. But there are many reasons to believe that at the end of the day, they act independently. In any case, they, according to ABC News, have struck at least 10 radar sites across the Middle East since the war began over 2 weeks ago. Some of the targeted systems, including high-value missile defense radars like ANTPY-2 and ANFPS-132, appear to have been damaged, though the full extent is unclear due to limited satellite data. Experts say these radars are critical but highly vulnerable. Damaging them can reduce early warning capabilities, effectively partially blinding missile defense systems. And there have been numerous reports that in more recent days, some Iranian missiles have struck the genocidal colony without any warning at all, or with a very short warning and a much shorter warning than the colonists were getting at the beginning of this particular round of hostilities. And in this regard, this report, I just want to comment on another report that I saw yesterday in the Canadian corporate media relating to Iran's attacks on U.S. military bases in the region. I commented on this on X. It's an article. What prompted my remark on X is an article in a newspaper called The Hill Times in Canada. And the article was co-authored by a fellow by the name of Peter Mazereau, who is the editor of the Hill Times. And many of you, I imagine the vast majority of you will never heard this newspaper before. But trust me when I say that it is more or less the go-to newspaper for Canada's political elite. It's like the Hill in the United States. And it really kind of reflects editorially the mindset and the level of knowledge and understanding of the Canadian political elite. And in this article, Mazereau claimed that Iran did not have the capacity to meaningfully retaliate against U.S. military bases in the region. Meaningfully retaliate. Well, if you ask me, knocking out at least 10 of the critical radars that the United States has in the region constitutes meaningful retaliation. Quite apart from all of that, there are all kinds of satellite images of Iran's missile and drone attacks having blown up command and control facilities, hangars, facilities that house military personnel, including officers. I've been talking about this for the last 2 weeks. I've been showing many of these satellite images, one video after another, showing massive explosions at these military bases. We've seen attacks on the CIA section of the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, which apparently, according to U.S. media, caused the portion of the building to collapse. And huge attacks we've been covering daily on the embassy complex of the U.S. Regime in Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. So the idea that Iran can't meaningfully retaliate against U.S. military bases in the region could only emanate from somebody who suffers from an appalling lack of understanding of what is going on. And if that is a reflection of how the Canadian political elite views this war, there is zero hope whatsoever for Canada, either Canadian government either accurately predicting and managing the impacts of this war or taking the steps necessary to the extent it can do so to bring it to an end. It's just a shocking level of ignorance in my view. But we've seen this again and again in both the corporate media and the Western political elite. Before signing off, lastly, I just want to offer a reflection about why Israel is doing this. I mean, as I said at the outset, this was entirely predictable that Iran would retaliate in this way, and that this, we continue to go up the escalation ladder with oil and gas producing infrastructure being targeted and destroyed. And these things are juicy, easy targets to destroy because, there's so much oil and gas at them, which is obviously highly combustible. All it takes is one or two well-placed drones to set them ablaze. And, this is going to have catastrophic impacts on the global economy. You don't have to be to have a doctorate in economics in order to understand this. And yet Israel is, and possibly, I think probably, in fact, with the not only acquiescence, but support of the Trump regime, is escalating in this way. Why would it do that? Does it want to become even a worse political leper than it already is on the world stage? I can only speculate, but I suspect, and it pains me to say it, that Israel wants to create a situation in which the United States government considers it unavoidable to attack Iran with a nuclear weapon. This is something that it's not a risk that we should exclude. It is entirely possible. It would be consistent with the behavior of these lunatics. And one thing I want to add in that regard is that I think they probably appreciate that a single nuke might not do the job, because one nuclear weapon, Iran is a very big country and its military forces and assets are distributed across the country, some in parts that are highly mountainous and hard to reach. And if they want to protect against a devastating Iranian counterattack, which would very likely come, maybe even the Iranians would, saturate the Dimona nuclear reactor in the genocidal Israeli entity with ballistic missiles, possibly creating a nuclear disaster there. Or it just might fire everything it has at oil infrastructure throughout the region and at Israel in one final, devastating blow. Or it might suddenly unveil to the world that all along, or during the last few weeks at least, it had been working on and had developed its own nuclear weapon, and then it would use that nuclear weapon. So for all of these reasons, if they decide to go down that path of striking Iran, my suspicion is that they would not confine it to a single nuclear weapon, that they would try to eliminate once and for all any ability on the part of the Islamic Republic to counterattack in a decisive and devastating way. And the problem there is twofold. First of all, any nuclear weapon is going to have local disastrous impacts ecologically and from a health perspective. But the more that they use, the more the radioactive fallout is going to impact countries further afield, not just in West Asia, but elsewhere, depending upon the types of warheads that are used and the number of warheads that are used. So there's the problem of the broader region being impacted from a health and ecological perspective in extraordinarily damaging ways. But there's also the risk of nuclear winter. You don't have to have a full-scale nuclear war for enough soot and smoke to be spewed into the atmosphere that it blocks out the sun for a prolonged period of time, causing a sudden and dramatic reduction in global temperatures with existentially dangerous impacts on the global agricultural system, leading potentially the deaths of hundreds of millions, possibly even billions of persons from an agricultural collapse. This is the nuclear winter, folks. You don't have to take my word for it that this is a real danger. You can read about it. If you don't know about it, I suggest you take some time and inform yourselves. I do believe we are now at the most dangerous point in human history. Those of us alive today have the misfortune of having to deal with this disaster. But in a way, it's also a privilege because we have the opportunity to make things right. I wish it weren't this way, but it does fall upon our generation, those generations that are alive today, to de-escalate this as quickly as possible. And in that regard, you know, people often ask me, what can you do? Protest, 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 protest. It's quite appalling to me that in Canada, during the past few weeks, I've seen more protests in support, including members of the Iranian diaspora, fascists, racists, Zionists in the Iranian diaspora, more protests that support what Trump and Netanyahu is doing to Iran than oppose it. At least that's what I've seen. And I don't get the impression that at this point in time, the anti-war movement has been truly revived. We need to get off of our derrieres and into the streets, and we need to be relentless and loud and implacable in our demand that this be brought to an end. Right now, I think the political elites in the West don't really feel the heat from the public outrage. They will, and I think they know it's coming, but the sooner we cause it to arrive, the sooner we can bring this existentially dangerous conflict to an end. That's it for my report today, and the next time you hear from me, assuming everything goes according to plan, I will be in Iran, and we'll be spending the next week or so there to report to you directly about what is being done to that country by these criminals. This is Dimitri Lascaris signing off from West Asia today on March 19th, 2026.